Hey, welcome to the Dr. Bill and Friends. We have Dr. Joe Kessler here with us again. Joe is an MD who does Qigong and other Asian medicines, traditional Chinese medicine, like acupuncture. And he's here with us from Madison. And Joe is going to talk to us a little bit about the 5 elements today. Last time, if you missed his webinar that we did with us, go on to our website, check it out. It was a great one. So here we go again. So we brought Joe back so he could go over the 5 elements. So, Joe, why don't you tell us about the 5 elements?
All right. So this is a little diagram of what they call the 5-element theory. And what this is, we always talk about the whole person.
I'll hold it for you.
How you want to know like what the whole person is, or how, what getting to the root of the problem of something. This is a way to do it. Because how do your organs relate together? This diagram sort of goes over what it is. Each of your organs, they kind of come in pairs, like your kidney and your bladder work together, your liver and gallbladder are together, and those pairs each are kind of related with an element. Okay, so like the kidney is water, the liver is wood, the heart is fire. So that element has the frequency; it shares a frequency with those organs.
Right.
For example, a lot of people like to go camping out in the woods. Some people like to go to the ocean. So people like to go to the ocean, maybe they maybe have a kidney issue, right? Or they have a kidney meridian problem, right? So that all that water element can help kind of rebalance them, helps to refocus, re-establish their kidney energy. People are in the woods, big trees, that they have that wood frequency, that wood energy that can help you reset your liver function, because that's what they are. So each of those are related to one of the elements. And then this is how your organs relate together in the body. For example, like we always say, the water makes wood, comes the liver, the wood makes fire, fire makes earth, earth makes metal, metal makes water somehow. But that's how and then again, the wood can control the earth. This is what they call the control cycle, or more like a support cycle. So if you look at something like the lung, okay, so the lung is, the way this is it, the lung is the mother of the kidney, so it gives energy to the kidney, but it gets energy from the spleen. Okay, and stomach. So if somebody has a cough, we just think, well, we're going to treat the lung. Like as doctors, we will treat the lung. It's an X-ray, it's CAT scan, someone's coughing, it must be something in the lung. But if there's a kidney problem, so frequently people have chemotherapy. Chemotherapy just knocks your energy down so low. Your kidney is where you store your energy. So when that happens, people start coughing because it's from their kidney. It's because the lung, as the mother of the kidney. So this is why they say the mother. Like the mothers will the kid's sick, they'll just give all their energy to the kid, right? So the lung energy it just keeps giving to the kidney. So now you're seeing a symptom in the lung, but the lung is not the problem, right? So if a mother is sick or something, she's tired, whatever, it might not be her, it's their kid's sick. She's been running back and forth to the hospital, so she's sick, right? Make the kid better, then she'll get better. Same thing here. So if you have that could be a cause of a cough, right? Or if the stomach is weak, the stomach is the mother of the lung is the child of the spleen and stomach. Right. So that if that's weak, it's not getting enough energy. So then you see a problem there, right? If the child's not getting support from the mother, then it has a problem. Okay, so you can see that happen too. So and then the third thing, the lung and the large intestine that's the pair that works together. So if there's a colon problem, you might see a cough as well. Okay, so that's the whole thing. So understanding. So that's how you can understand when you see a symptom. So what you try to do with this theory is try to understand which is the root, right? So you might see somebody with some kidney problems, maybe some lung problems, and you want to say, anytime you go through this, I have that, right? But which is the one that's causing the problem? You can use this theory to kind of figure that out.
Gotcha. So I know that like emotionally, lung is going to be grief, and I believe that says large intestine. I was going to say small intestine, I think is feelings of like not good enough, that kind of stuff. Kidney is going to be fear.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. So that's what you do with that is you try to figure out in each of these little circles, each of these things will have, say, a tissue that they're associated with. So the heart and the blood vessels are the same. So that's kind of obvious. But the stomach is related to your muscles. The lung is related to your skin. Your kidney is related to your bones, and then your liver is related to your tendons. Right. So somebody. Say, my sister, when she was 30, her son got stuck on a slide, so she went up there, got him, and just jumped down, 2-3 feet out of the ground and broke her ankle. So you say, she has a kidney problem, because a 30-year-old person shouldn't just jump down and break their ankle, right?
Unless they step on a big rock or something.
Right, yeah, stuff like that, right? But still, technically you should still bounce.
Right.
You shouldn't break things at that age. So they say, well, that's a kidney problem, right? Because that's an issue with that. And if you have tendon problems, like Kobe Bryant, remember he ruptured his Achilles tendon.
Right.
So when I see that, I'm like, oh, this guy's under a lot of stress. I mean, your liver is what handles your stress. So when you have a tendon injury like that, that's a liver function problem. So he's having probably really stressed. That's just a sign of that. You just look at it that way.
I just had a patient come in today who was telling me that her son just tore his Achilles yesterday, doing practically nothing, just stepping onto the basketball court.
See that, and that's the key, right? That's the whole thing. When you see that, you're like, well, that's not normal.
No.
So something, especially for a kid like that just tears Achilles tendon. So you say that this kid has a liver function problem. So you go after that. Then you have to address that problem.
So would you address the liver, or would it be a heart or kidney because of the mother and the?
It depends. Well, it depends. You have to look at. That's why you look at these different things, right? And again, each of these organs has a time to that particular time of year that organ is running the body. The liver's the spring, kidney's the winter time. So if you have problems, say you have allergies, right? I have allergies in the spring. Well, that's probably a liver problem, right?
Okay.
Or if you have headache, if you have whatever, a lot of people have trouble in the fall. So that's more of a lung problem, okay? And then each of the organs also have a little 2-hour slot that they're running the body, okay? So if that organ isn't healthy, when it's running the body, things go bad, okay? So if you have a headache, say, for example, right? You're thinking, where's this headache at? Where's it coming from? You say, well, when do you have this headache? Oh, just wake up at 1 o'clock, floating headache. So that headache is probably liver, because at 1 o'clock, that's the time of the liver, right? But if they say, after work, so when I really get that headache, that's the time of the kidney. The kidney's kind of 3 to 5, 3 to 7. If they say they wake with a headache, that's probably a stomach headache. So you use that time. So you're trying to use these different things to try to figure out which organ is causing the problem, okay? So it's the same thing when you went, so he has this tendon problem, so you think, okay, now what else is going on? Where's it at? You can also look where it's at, what meridian is it on, so you can look at that, what time does it hurt more, and things like that. And again, always, like you were talking about earlier, each of them has an emotion. Right. And that's the most fascinating thing to me about this is the emotion. So the liver's anger, the stomach is kind of overthinking, when you overthink about things. The lung is grief, sadness, not letting go, essentially. Right. And then the kidney is fear, worry. So that when somebody has something like that happens, then you say, okay, then you can help also narrow down what it is. Right. Like one of my favorite stories is I had a patient she had these terrible headaches on the side of her head. She's just so sad because her mom had cancer, mom was dying of cancer, and she's just so sad about that. And that would be, shoulder pain, maybe, sadness, diarrhea. But are you angry? No, you're not angry with your mother? No. She gives a big list of all these things she does for her mom, all these things. Well, as we talked about, it turns out 80% of the credit goes to her little sister. So she's mad at her mom, but she doesn't know what to say because she's dying. Right. So, you send her back, they talked about it, they cried, they got through it, and then her headache's went. Mm-hmm. So it's always that emotion will tell you a lot about what's going on. Mm-hmm.
So interesting, my wife, we had a previous house 17 years ago, we had a mold problem, and we got out of there, but she was having some cough issues, and ever since then she's had issues with cough. And no matter what I've done for her, I can't get rid of it, but if she goes and get acupuncture, it'll go away. It'll do really well. Mm-hmm. So as I was, going through these different things, sitting there thinking like, okay, well, she does get headaches, especially like this time of year when the weather changes, the headaches are the worst. And sorry, Linda, if you're listening, you're gonna have to get over it. Anyways, so I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking, as you're saying, well, maybe the kidney is, sucking basically sucking the energy from the lung, or maybe the stomach is not strong enough to support the lung.
Right, but you take the mold problem, right?
Right.
So then you have to go with what's the emotion to the mold problem. So you have the mold problem, maybe if they leave the house, can you keep the house?
This could be grief from that, because we did have to leave.
That's the thing, so that's like, do we have to, so that emotion is what's causing. It's always, I always look at things, just break it right down to the emotion. When something happens, you always have to look at what's going on. Like, I have a patient who's, she has sciatica. She's like, I'm driving down to Columbus. I think it got worse because I had to drive all the way down to Columbus. I'm like, well, what's in Columbus? Well, that's her son's down there. She's having problems with him. So it's like that's the issue, not
Right.
the drive isn't the issue, it's the emotion, what's
Sure.
in Columbus. So again, so what is when you have to move out of the house, you're gonna have to leave the house, what's gonna happen, what's gonna cost a lot of money, whatever that is, that's the emotion. That's, if once you fix that, then it'll go away. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we've always talked about, how emotions are energy in motion or issues in the tissues.
Right.
And anytime you've got issues in the tissues, it's going to show up in those organ systems.
Right.
And I thought it was interesting, though, as I'm sitting there thinking how you were talking about this, you said that kidneys had to do with bone. Well, that would make sense because your kidneys are responsible for your metabolites and getting rid of, potassium or, sodium or, whatever. And so if you're dumping calcium or, if your kidneys are not functioning right, that could cause a bone issue, right?
Right. And so it's interesting, if you look at the kidney, so the kidney meridian, each of these has a certain function that they have,
right,
beyond how we really think of the organ, right? Like your liver is, when we talk about stress, your liver's job is to keep all your energy moving. That's the job of your liver, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're stressed, here's my life, here's what I want my life to be. As long as it's pretty much the same, we're okay. But when it's different, now it's like, oh God, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to be. And that stress, you're going against what's happening. You're trying to hold yourself back. That lack of motion, now we're not moving anymore, right? So then you're going to have liver function problems because your energy is not moving, and that's the whole function of the liver. Mm-hmm. So in the kidney is where you store your energy. So the problem that you see in the kidney is all the things you see in your grandparents when they're getting older, right? So they have bone problems, right? Osteoporosis is a problem. They break their hips easily. They have urinary, problems, bladder problems. They're tired.
Infections, right?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. All that is related to the kidney function because they're low on energy. So you see in your whatever you see in your grandparents, that's usually a kidney function problem. And this is what you see in the people as they're over, like we're all overdone, especially Christmas here, we're just moving, doing everything. So then you start seeing the kidney problems because you're so tired, then you begin to see things like that. So
how do you go about, let's say, how do you go about treating it then? I mean, you said that you're going to try to find out what's going on, what's the underlying issue. What are you doing at your office as far as the emotions? Are you just bringing them up and letting the people deal with them, or?
Well, I mean, you have to figure out a way to deal with that emotion, whether, that's going to be counseling or just if you can figure out, and sometimes just knowing what it is, because, again, people will say, no, I think I can snap on this. Well, no, I think you're angry. And then once you can identify that, then a lot of times then you can start to work it out that way. But I mean, that's why you have to do things. In medicine, we have this, you have medicine, you're going to do these tests and these different things, and then, okay, maybe it's just your emotions, but then go over there by the psychologist, psychiatrist, they're over there. They're not in medicine, right? Mm-hmm. They're just over there, but it's all interrelated. That's right. The whole thing when you talk about this whole mind-body connection. The mind, it's such a powerful thing.
Absolutely.
And it maybe is the most powerful thing.
Yeah. Well, placebo is the strongest medication, right?
Right. And I mean, if you believe in something, right? That's a big help. You can do. I mean, that's just your body healing itself. You just give it an excuse to heal. Like if they've told you have cancer, you can't get better. Then I take this pill, I can get better. Okay, and you can believe that's you.
Right.
But when Jesus was healing people, right? He didn't say, eat some more greens and take another lap around the lake, right? He said your sins are forgiven. Right. Which I take to mean whatever that sin was, that emotion, he could take that emotion away. He could take, then they just felt better. However that emotion was manifesting in the body, it went away. As soon as he took, because he was like an emotion. Right. Take that problem away. And once you can relieve that problem, then it goes away. And we all know this, if you're stressed about something, you feel bad, you said something to someone, oh God. And you finally go talk to them and they're like, oh no, that's okay. I understand you. Oh, thank God. Then you feel, whatever shortness of breath or this chest pain you're having goes away. Right. So it's all related to that. That's the whole thing. And then for me, that's the most, anytime I hear something, I'm always going to the emotion, like trying to figure out, okay, what's the emotion with that? Okay. And then you can see how it's manifested in the body.
So do you want to go over these in a little bit more detail at all? I'm just looking, you said tendon, eye, anger, yep, spring, wind.
Yeah, like if you look at in each of these, so we talked about the emotions, right? So anger, overthinking, grief, like we said, and that's fear. Yeah.
Fear.
So each of these has, we talked about the tissue that they go with, and then each of them also has an opening in the head somewhere. So the eye is related to the liver. So if there's a liver function problems, then a lot of times you have a problem with the eye. The stomach is the mouth. So anything in the mouth, not counting the tongue, because the tongue is the heart. So if there's a tongue thing, a lot of times that's the heart. And then the lung is the nose, and then the ear is the kidney. Same thing again with older people have problems with hearing and stuff. They lose their hearing because again, they're getting a kidney.
Tinnitus, whatever.
Yeah, all those things that happen with your ear, that's related to the kidney. So each of that, you have each of those things. Each of these has a color, right? Certain people like a certain color. Like you go into somebody's house, their kitchen is like this bright yellow. You're like, my God, how do they live in that kitchen?
Right.
Because they have a stomach deficiency. So that color helps build up your stomach energy. So like they just want to sit there and yell at things because it helps them.
So what color is your office?
I don't paint my office.
What color is your house?
I mean, it's a lot of browns and stuff
Browns
from the stomach, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, that's again, what do you prefer? What's your favorite color?
Right.
You know, what color do you like to be in? So that tells you something. Like everything tells you something. You know, everything should give you an indication of what, you know,
Yes.
what's wrong. If you're like, you know, martial artists, they just watch people. You know, and you can just see from, if you just observe what people like to eat or whatever, you can tell where their weakness is, and then you just go after that part. You know what I mean? If you can say, oh, what do they like? Oh, they like the really sweet stuff. Oh, they probably have a stomach problem. So hit them in the front. That's your stomach, right?
So why sweets and stomach?
Well, that's that each of these has a taste.
Uh-huh.
So the sweet is the taste of the stomach,
Okay.
right? This one, that one's more of spicy foods, spicy things.
Okay.
That's salty, that's sour. This is bitter things. So bitter things are good for your heart.
Right.
So like you think, oh,
Herbs.
yeah, whatever you take that's bitter, you're like, oh, that's terrible, so bitter, but that's good for your heart. It's the same way, like your stomach, when it's in trouble, people want to eat, so this is when people get stressed, right? They want the chocolate, like give me something sweet because they're stressed, right? To go to the cookie jar. And why is that? You're like, because that's not really, that liver handles the stress, but see, the liver has this is another support relationship. But I look at this as the father-child relationship, right? Because fathers, they support the kids as well, right? Sometimes the fathers, if they're not in a good mood or they're not good, they push the kid too hard, they're pushing too hard on the child. And then the child has problems because they're getting pushed too hard. And that's what happens with this. When you get stressed, the liver pushes too much from the stomach. And then the stomach has a problem. And then so if you eat sweet things, that's the frequency of the stomach. So that can help heal the stomach. So you automatically get the cookie, right? Like that, right? So that's the kind of, that's what's happening when you get stressed. You know, if you get stressed or liver function, also periods that are bad, or that's another liver function problem. So again, right to the chocolate, right?
Right.
So that happens a lot to a lot of ladies. So, but that's again, not related to that. But again, not a stomach problem, liver problem. So you have to know who's leading the problem.
So let's just go over a couple of things and see if you can give me some ideas here. So somebody comes in and they're having problems sleeping, right? Not necessarily, you know, when let's say they can fall asleep, but then they wake up. Now, typically I look at saying, okay, finding out what time they wake up, because 1 to 3, of course, would be the liver, 3 to 5 would be the lungs. But if they're getting up and then they can't go back to sleep, oftentimes I look at that and go, okay, well, it could be your adrenal glands because you ate too much sugar before you went to bed and your sugar just crashed and burned, and now your adrenal glands are trying to kick the sugar back up in your blood. Right. So if you eat some protein before you go to bed, oftentimes you can get through the night. But if somebody's having sleep issues, how would you look at it?
So sleep is related to your heart, right?
Okay.
So like what they call the spirit of the heart is the shen. That's sort of your spirit, or the closest thing to whatever you say your spirit or your soul is the heart, right? That your heart, because the heart is the emperor, they say, right? The heart's the king. Okay. So everybody will try to take it on for the heart first. By the time you have heart problems, every other organ will try to take it, right? I'll take the hit. So by the time it's there, but your heart is where that's where your spirit sits, your shen, so it has to lay in there. So if your heart is not, it's right, then you're not going to sleep well. Okay, so again, if you say you eat before you go to bed, what's the problem with that? Now you're asking your stomach. Remember, the stomach time is the morning. 7 to 11 is the stomach. So when you're eating at night, it's not the time for digesting, right? So it's going to have problems because it's trying to do a job that's weaker. So now this is weak. So what happens? This is the mother, right? So she's going to give energy to try to take care of the stomach, and now your heart isn't right. So now you can't sleep, right? So that's a problem. Now, if your kidney meridian is bad, right? Your kidney is the water element, and that controls the fire, right? That's it, right? The water, you know, doesn't have to put out, just controls the fire. But when that's weak, now it's too much fire, it's too hot. Now you can't, again, the spirit can't sit in the heart properly. You know, they call it floating shen, you know, when you're just laying there, you're sleeping, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, it's 2 o'clock. Then you've just been laying there, you weren't really sleeping, but that's called floating shen. You're not in your heart where you belong. So that's how that would relate, like if you're not sleeping. And again, if you wake, like you said, if you wake up at a certain time, that means a certain thing. But you look at it that way, like, why isn't the heart peaceful? You know, it's the same thing. As people get older, they have heart problems, right? Is that a problem with the heart, or is it a problem with the kidney? When again, you don't have enough water to control this fire, and this is out of control here because it's not balanced.
So if you don't have enough water to control the heart, would that be high blood pressure and stuff like that? Would be a kidney issue, as opposed to
a heart problem. Yeah.
What if your heart's not strong enough? Would that be?
It could be, and again, it could be a heart problem.
Okay.
Like you have a problem.
Let's say, could that be the liver?
It could be a liver problem, could be stomach. Like I say, that's why you have to look into the whole thing. That's why you use this, which is the problem. You know, if you have 5 kids and they're always fighting, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't get the instigator out of there, you take this one out, the other one's still there, right? But then still fighting. So you got a guy get that one out, and fix that one, and then you're okay. That's the same thing with this. Because if you don't address the problem, then it's gonna shift. You're not gonna get to the root of things.
I know I'm putting you on the spot on some things, but let's say you have somebody who comes in and no matter what they do, they can't lose weight. Mm-hmm. I mean, I always look at that and go, okay, we've got an issue with the adrenal glands, possibly, most likely also causing a thyroid issue. But depending on where the fat is and how they're packing it on, could be ovaries, could be a lot of different things. So,
you look at everything always comes down to energy, right? It's always about energy. Like, so if you look at E equals MC squared, right? Energy, right? So if energy stops moving, where does it go? It has to go somewhere, right? It becomes mass. So when people, their energy's low, all the energy's going to mass, right? So that's the problem. And what's causing that to be a problem? Liver function. So liver function, we're all kind of fatter here in the West because we're always stressed. So you can't move the energy. So when your energy doesn't move, it just becomes, because what's fat? It's just stored energy, right? Right. So we have to be, when it stops moving, it becomes, so that the key is good liver function. That's that Dragon's Way program, that the whole thing is to really concentrate on your liver function. And then as the liver gets moving, then your energy's moving, and then everything goes from mass to energy. So everything's a matter of energy. You know, when your energy's low, then things don't work. You only have so much energy. So if you just look everything from that standpoint, that's the key. I would, like I say, if somebody can't lose weight, it's liver function. I'd start with the liver function. Again, in the West, we all have liver function.
And it could be anger that's causing the liver function.
Yeah, it could be, right.
Somebody, divorced or
resentment, right?
Resentment. Is resentment
that
should be over here, right?
It's a little gallbladder. Because of anger, right?
Oh no, gallbladder, it's over there. Maybe somebody, somebody dissed them somehow or whatever.
Right. And that's the thing when you talk about stress, people say, oh, what happened? I got stressed. But you got divorced or stressed. You say, what's going to happen when you're divorced? Depends. Right? So you get divorced and you're like, oh, so sad. Can't believe 20 years of marriage. You're like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's that sadness. Then they're going to get maybe shoulder pain, constipation, diarrhea, lung problems.
Can't let go.
Right. But if they're afraid, like, my God, how am I going to raise these kids on my own? Am I going to be able to do it? Is he going to pay me? Oh, what's going to happen? All that kind of fear and what's going to happen. Then it's back pain, headaches, that kind of stuff. If they're just angry, like, I can't believe this guy punch you in the nose, right? Then that is headaches on the side of your head, hip pain, all the liver function problems, heartburn and things like that. That's how that plays out. So that's, again, when you talk about stress, I mean, stress in general is a liver function thing when you're under stress, but then what is the emotion that stress creates? And then that's going to show you what is the problem that's going to happen, When I study with the master I study with, we're talking about this, and a friend of mine is a psychologist, and he was saying, when people come in, I just kind of let them tell me their story and, see what's going on. He said, you're not, Master Lou said, you're not getting it. You don't ask them what's going on because they're just going to tell you what they think you want to hear, right? Because everyone's trying to hide a little bit, right? Uh-huh. So you just ask them what hurts. They can say whatever, and my back hurts. Okay, it's fear. That's the problem, Like shoulder pain, can't get rid of. Okay, maybe there's sadness. That's the kind of thing. As opposed to when people come in to me, like a regular doctor, I'm having this shoulder pain. Then you ask them, what are you sad about? So like my staff knows about this. my nurse one time, I had a little cough. She goes, "Are you sad?" No, what? You're coughing.
Right.
So, but it's all, it's in there, right? Something happens. Your body's always trying to, and these are just your body trying to tell you what's wrong, what's going on. You know, if you look at, we're just sort of in this, whatever, spiritual thing too, right? Life. It's not just this, there's more to it than that, right?
Right.
So your body has a contract to sort of take care of you in that, whatever that purpose is. So when you're getting off purpose, it starts misbehaving because it didn't come for that, right? So it's trying to get you to get back to your purpose. So that's what, you know, if you look at illness as something wrong with me, illness is just trying to tell you, hey, let's get back on track here.
Interesting.
And that this is how you kind of put it all
So
together.
how do people learn about some of this, as far as, let's say somebody's watching and they're like, you know, I've got headaches that are like right in here. You know, which one deals with frontal headaches?
Yeah, that's
I mean, frontal headaches, I think, first thing I think was cervicogenic, but
right. Well, that's
because that's
your
my,
it's not right. Everybody has a different approach to it, right?
right.
But you can, again, once you know which meridian it is, then you look at, you know, where's that meridian go? Real estate, right? It's like real estate. Location.
Right.
Where's that? Everything on the meridian. So so again, if you have somebody has some kind of rash somewhere, okay, and you think, okay, rash first, this is a skin problem, so maybe it's a lung problem first.
Okay.
Then you think, where's it at? Right? So it's right here. Okay, that's the lung meridian.
Right.
If it's here, it's the stomach meridian. So you have to think, where is that showing up? Like if you have heat, a lot of heat in one of the organs, it'll show up, it'll sometimes come out of your skin. You have this red rash because of that.
That's also large intestine meridian too, isn't it?
Yeah, those two go right up here. Yeah. So like after my dad died, maybe 6 weeks later, I got this rash, you know. This is when I first started doing this.
Okay.
This rash right here, I'm like, oh man, no, sir. You know, put some cream on it, steroid cream, that didn't help. Taking the pills, like nothing's working, like what's going on here? Then I was thinking, we said, I was at my mom's in Geneva. I'm like, oh, I gotta go. I just, in the car, driving home, cried all the way in the car, back home to Menor, and on the floor for 20 minutes in the car. And on the floor, crying. And then the rash went over that thing. Because that emotion was the process. But again, that was in the long intestine meridian. So it showed right where it was. And then this wouldn't go away. But as soon as you did that, as soon as you processed it, it went away. You know, so that's the whole key. You have to look at, you know, where's that location, and then read into this. But that's why I love this Chinese medicine, is because everything has meaning. Like when we were in medical school, you had to go in and take these histories from people, all these different things, you know, and it was just so much stuff. Like, what do you do with all that? You just put it in there.
Right.
But now everything means something.
Right.
If someone says, oh, I'm constipated, you're thinking, okay, it's maybe a lung problem. And you see how they react, because you don't really think the lung and the large intestine are related. But if somebody has a cough that you can't get rid of, if you give them an herb or something that gives them diarrhea, you can get rid of the cough. Because the cough, they're trying to process this energy out through their lung and it can't come out. But that's the partner, is the colon. So if you just let it go out that way, then
So somebody who has cough is likely constipated as well. Is that what you're saying?
could be, yeah. You would look at that, right? You would think that that's probably a problem.
Because they're trying to get rid of it and they can't. Which actually makes sense. You think about it, your lungs are one of the largest detoxification organs, and what else is detoxing is your skin.
Right.
So
that's why your lung, that meridian is hard to treat, because that's the meridian that's in contact with the world, right? Because it's your skin out here. You breathe things in with your nose, and then it's your colon on the back end. So that's the one that's always in contact with the world. So it's hard kind of to treat that one because it's just unstable, because you're constantly, temperature's different, everything that's going on. Like, this is where the viruses are coming. It's always coming through your skin and stuff.
Right.
So you have to, that's a hard one to treat. So sometimes you have to treat on either side of it.
Where's small intestine? Is that it's part of the heart? And why is small intestine part of the heart?
Because it is.
I'm like sitting here going, okay, well that makes sense. As you're breathing stuff in the lungs, and then you said, how you're.
And one of the ways you can look at it, how I remember it, is if you take the body. For these ones that are hard to remember. Like, obviously, the liver and gallbladder go together, the bladder and the kidney go together.
Right.
But if you just take your diaphragm, just fold yourself in half. So your lungs are here, and your colon's here. So when you fold in half, your lungs and your colon go together. Right. Your heart too is in the middle, kind of of your lungs. And your small intestine's in the middle of your colon. So they go together. Okay. So that's always that. And that's how things kind of relate to each other. Like everything's related like that.
Right.
So. and it depends. Each of these have special relationships with each other too. You have to understand that a little bit to how to treat, because you can treat the stomach has a special relationship, special frequency with the lung. So if you can't treat the lung, you're having trouble, just treat the stomach because they're a partner. They have a relationship.
Right.
So these two have a kind of relationship together.
So when you're working with somebody, then are you doing acupuncture with them? Are you doing Chinese herbs? What's like when people have issues, you having them come do Qigong?
I mean,
what's your way of, I know it's big because it's all a whole bunch of different things, but sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can, no, but you can, it just depends on, you try to do it all. So it's a bunch of different things, right? So you can take, say somebody, whatever they have. So you can do acupuncture, right? So acupuncture is great, especially if something's stuck, right? Because the energy's stuck.
And how do you know if their energy is stuck?
An easy way is, again, people know, like you say, oh, I have this shoulder pain, right? You say, when my wife massages, I just feel so good, right? They're energy deficient, right? Because when you're doing that, you're giving some of your energy to them, right? So that, I feel so bad, right? Just keep doing that, right? If they have that and you try to massage them and they just don't like that, they already have enough energy. If you give them more, it's stuck. So you're just getting more stuck in that area. So that's a way to know too, right? So then acupuncture will help you, like kids, young people, they're usually stuck. They have enough energy, it's stuck somewhere, right? As we get older, a lot of the things, it's an energy deficiency that we have. And so it's harder to treat. But so if they're stuck, acupuncture is great for that. Acupuncture is good for a lot of things, but that you can look at that. Some people just don't have enough energy to move. So you use herbs and stuff to sort of support their organs. And you can use the herbs too, just to improve the function of their organs too, right? And then the Qigong is a way for self-healing. Now you can, you should, if you have an energy practice like that, then that practice you can heal yourself. You don't need the object is you don't need a doctor, right?
Right.
Just try to do
we were created to heal ourselves, right?
Exactly. That's why you have all these things. Like you should be able to do it on your own.
Right. So if somebody wanted to learn more about that, let's say they're having issues with, anger or whatever, liver problems, and then they went and they're like, oh, well, because let's say they're just watching this and they're starting to look at some different emotions that they may have or issues that they may have and look to emotions that attach to them. Is there some place that they can, do you have anything on your website or anything that they can go into and go, oh, wow, look, this teaches me a little bit about how these interlock?
Yeah, the best thing to go over the 5-element theory is Master Lu has a book for the Dragon's Way book. The book, it's a book for weight loss and stress management, but that one is that one will go over the 5-element theory. Okay. It goes over each of the organs and each of the 5 elements. That's the best resource. Yeah, I mean, there's other things I've looked at, but it just gets too complicated. You want it to be simple. And this whole chart is in that book. And again, the tcmworld.org site.
That's Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine. TCM.
Right, that foundation, that's Master Lu's website. But they have lots and lots of information there too. That's the place. But that book, the Dragon's Way book, the weight loss and stress management. It's a green book on Amazon, non-Lu, NANLU. And that book that's great. Because it does it simply. Like sometimes you read this Chinese medicine stuff, just people make it so complex. Then you just, oh God. But it's simple. Because again, it's designed, like you said, so you can do things to heal yourself.
Right. So if somebody massaged them or something like that, and they're like, oh, that hurts so bad, they might be able to look for acupuncture points and stimulate them with their, acupressure points.
That's the thing. Yeah, if you can use certain points to release that.
Right.
Yeah, and then that's good. Yeah, that's the whole lot. Is because everything's about energy flow. If your energy flowing, you're fine.
So are you going to be teaching a Qigong class there anytime soon?
Probably, yeah, in January or February. Okay. Trying to get the website. Kind of went down with all the COVID stuff. So
right. And where would you do something like that?
Often we do it in Madison out there, but done it in
How much space do you have for it? How much space do you have? I mean, how many people can you get in there?
Really, you like to teach, 12 people, less than 20 for sure, because you want to be able to sit and talk and it's more.
I guess I was just asking because you and I had talked previously about, is it something that we could do a class here?
Certainly do classes.
And I didn't know how big of an area you needed and how many people you would.
You just need to have everybody. It's not that big an area, so everybody can kind of stand together in a circle.
Okay.
There's simple exercises that we have people do it in their 20s, people do it in their 80s, because it's simple exercise. And it's just, again, just trying to get your energy moving. Like we don't have that in the West. Everything's physical. All our energy,
Right.
when we work out, you got to go work out. So that's physical. So people get tired. They're already tired. And then it makes them more tired. And that's not helping. You want to have something that targets your energy because you have your physical body, you have your energy body, and they're related. But if you can build up your energy body, that's where you can begin to, then you'll feel better because then that can take care of your physical body. That's the whole key.
Very good, very good. Well, anything else you would like to tell us about?
I think that's the basis. And again, when we do the Dragon's Way, we go over the whole thing. So each week, it's a 6-week course. Each week we have an introduction, and then each week we go over one of the warrior pairs.
Okay.
So you can learn that in a little more detail. Again, it's nice because it's a different way to look at things.
Sure.
Like so often in medicine, say you have shoulder pain, right? So you come to me, family practice. I know a bit about the shoulder,
Right.
orthopedic wise, right? But then, okay, it's still not getting better. So then you see the orthopedic surgeon who's has more experience with that, but we're trained the same way. We think the same way, right? Because it's something inside your shoulder. It could be your
Right.
cartilage, could be your whatever. And instead of flipping it over and saying, well, maybe that's just an emotion, or maybe that's, from a acupuncture standpoint, it's different. Like again, as chiropractors, you guys look at things totally different too.
Right.
More of how the energy's flowing and that kind of, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a different, that's why, if one modality or one way of looking at things isn't working,
Then try another way.
Like,
Right.
a lot of doctors don't like the, like chiropractic,
Right.
but it's like, that's a different way to see things. Now you're
Sure.
coming from a different angle. You're not just keep trying the same thing at the same angle. You'll come from a different angle.
You're
Right?
kind of in the same boat I am. You probably have a lot of MDs that don't like you because you're doing
Well, I mean,
Chinese medicine
it's a
too.
different way to see, but you think it's kind of crazy, right? At first, well, I don't tell anybody.
I don't know,
But
I don't think it's crazy at all.
Well, when you look at it, that's been around thousands of years.
Right.
Chiropractor's been around a long
Socrates
time.
and all
Yeah.
those guys were doing
So obviously, if this
bone
wasn't
resetters.
right, if this wasn't working,
Right.
it wouldn't be still
Still
here.
here.
It would
Right.
just go away, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that, and that's the thing. It's a different. You want to be able to look at things from, just put it all together. I mean, something like if you could have knee pain. I mean, sometimes now it's all degenerate. What do you
Right.
do?
Right, and it's the same thing with the shoulder. Somebody can
Right.
have torn rotator cuff, torn labrum, and all the energy in the world. I don't know, maybe, but when you have a labrum that's shredded, I don't know how well that will heal.
Yeah, I mean, you
But-
need very high level masters to do that. But I mean, you can. But it's hard
Right.
for regular even
Sure.
people aren't trained a lot. I mean, in energy medicine, don't have a lot of chi. But yeah, I mean, you can do it different ways. But you should just be combining all these things together so you can.
Yeah. This is why we have to have this healing center that we've talked about.
That's right.
So
That's right.
we'll have to get started talking about that more at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, because you can combine a lot of stuff in it. Because what I like about Chinese medicine is that it puts it all together, right? So when you're talking about what we talked about here, how do you relate the body together? And then you should take some herbs. Well, these herbs are expensive. I can't afford the herbs. Well, let's then use the foods then, right?
Right.
Then just let's use food as medicine, right? Because certain foods have a certain frequency with
Absolutely.
so just use that. So okay, let's try that. That's why again, and I think a complete healing center. See that we never have all these things together, right? So then you have the diagnosis, right? So you need people who know about meridians, about anatomy, about medicine, and then once you find the emotion, now you have to have people to deal with the emotion. Because now you've uncovered this in someone they didn't know they had. Now you got to be able to say, okay, then you have to help people, process that emotion. Same thing. Then you should have a cafe, restaurant, something, so you can teach people how to cook.
Like, eat properly.
So I have a lung problem. So what am I going to have? We're going to have the fennel. We're going to have the almonds. Pears. How am I going to make dishes to help my shoulder, right? Help my lung problem, and all that should be together. And then this is a backbone for all of that. You can put it all. You don't have to have this. It's like this kind of thing. Everything should be in a system that all works together. This is beautiful for that.
So see, you heard it here. This is where we're headed.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we're gonna head. It's gonna happen eventually.
Not long.
So, anyways, if you have anything else you want to tell them, I know Dr. Kessler is in Madison at the, I was gonna say Lake Hospital, but that's not that now. It's UH.
It's UH now, yeah.
Yeah, so UH, and that's, you know what the address is there?
6270.
6270 Northridge Road. There you go.
Yes.
So anyways,
But hopefully we can partner in some of this stuff and
Absolutely.
between us or together, start putting some of this stuff together so you can kind of learn it online and get a picture of it, because that's the whole thing. If you could just know, if you could be just begin to do some things on your own,
right.
with food, simple movements, understanding your emotions, that kind of stuff is really the start of the healing of everything. You know?
Yeah. It's amazing the emotions that we have and how they affect us. It's crazy, and they they limit us. They cause us issues, like I said, issues in the tissues.
Yeah.
So
and we've gotten, unfortunately, medicine's gotten way away from that. It's always, that's why we're always looking for things, right? You're always, because everything, think about medicine is always focused on the small, right?
Right.
When you have this MRI, it's like, I'm just looking at this little piece here. You're just looking at that piece. You're not seeing all the rest of this. And we have specialists now who are specialists. You have cardiologists, now you have cardiologists.
Right.
And and by the time you get done, you're getting referred all the way out here instead of just look at the big picture.
Right.
Again, you have a heart problem. Maybe that's not a heart. Maybe it's this over here. We're over with. I give a lecture of how to see 4 doctors for the same problem.
Right.
So again, someone has a cough, right? So they have a cough, and so you go to a pulmonologist and they take him a medicine, or they don't have the cough anymore. But then they have diarrhea because now they're trying to. But the pulmonologist doesn't see that because now you're at the GI guy, right?
Right.
He's over here and they say, oh yeah, we got lots of new medicines for diarrhea. We stopped the diarrhea, but now the problem is that energy stopped work and it's deeper now. Now they get the shoulder pain. That nobody can treat the shoulder pain. Finally, you treat the shoulder pain, and then they get this rash that's impossible to treat because it just keeps driving it deeper and deeper and deeper. You're not dealing with the problem, so it just keeps going all these different places. But now, since we have all these specialties, we're in 4 or 5 specialties. You've seen all these doctors, but it's all the same problem. Just concentrate on the lung, and then you can fix it.
So many times I have people coming in, oh, my arm hurts, my shoulder hurts, or my hip, or whatever, and like, well, I'm going to evaluate your whole spinal nervous system because everything is connected, and so just because you have a knee or whatever pain doesn't mean it's actually coming from there.
Right. That's the key. And that if we understand that it's all connected, and you can see this from all these different spots, that's the important thing. And then once you can do that, treat the cause, and then everything gets better from there. Instead of having that's how we have people end up on 20 medicines. Because you do this, stomach hurts, but then your body's trying to tell you there's a problem here, so you just take the omeprazole, that goes away, but then it has to go somewhere else, and then it shows up somewhere else. Now you have this hip pain, right? Well, now it's hip pain, still liver gallbladder, and now it's over there, and now you get these injections, and now it's going deeper, and you just keep chasing it out. And here's another medicine for that one, here's this one, here's one for that, and and you're on 17 things.
I can't tell you how many people we have on 10. I had one woman on 24 different medications.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I want to thank you for coming back, and we'll have you back again because I'm sure that there's more that you can give us. But I want to thank you for going over the 5 elements. And for those of you who will be watching this, we'll look forward to talking to you another time down the line. So thanks for coming. Take care. God bless, and see you next time.
Take care.